Hi, I'm Jamey from Stonemaier Games, and today I'm going to talk about my favorite mechanism in Endless Winter, which I just got to play with 4 players yesterday for the first time. Very shiny box here. This is a worker placement game set in the Paleolithic era, and it has a deck building element to it, a little bit of worker placement, and a lot of little mini games that you play as you play the game. My favorite aspect of the game, though, is how the worker placement system works. I'm always looking for innovation in worker placement. It's one of my favorite mechanisms in general. A worker placement in a tabletop game is where you are, on your turn, typically taking a worker and a meeple, a token, a miniature, and placing it somewhere on a shared space that somehow interacts with other players. It isn't just claiming an action. Usually maybe it blocks that action, maybe it makes the action better or worse for players who are there or might visit in the future. But for Endless Winter specifically, here's how it works. Here's the board for Endless Winter. There are only 4 actions in the game, which I think is really interesting. There are only 4 actions where you can place workers. There's also a 5th on your player map, but primarily only 4 actions in the game. But how you use them can really make the game feel different from game to game. As far as I can imagine, I've only played once. But it also means that each of these turns has a high impact on the game because you only take 12 total turns over the course of the game. So if you place a worker on one of these spots, a few things happen. You start with the worker at the top of the action. You'll kind of work from top down. And even though it sounds like a lot, the turns don't actually take that long. The first thing you do is that you can take this action, the top action, as many times as you want. That's the infinity sign. So as long as you can pay a bunch of tools and a bunch of labor, you could gain as many different cards as you want with this action. So I could take that. I think there are 5 different types of cards, so I could take this up to 5 times if I wanted. So that's neat in itself. Place a worker, activate an ability as much as you want. Then your worker slides down to this space where you get to use this 1 time. So this is a very powerful ability, typically very powerful, that is somewhat linked to this ability up here, and you can only gain it once. So I can pay a food down here to gain a new card, but place it in my discard pile instead of my hand. Standard is that they go to your hand, and I can bury a card from my hand or discard pile or in play section if I want. That can amount to end game points at the end of the game. And then finally, so you get this repeated benefit if you want, a one-time powerful benefit. And then if you are the first player to go there, you slide down into this spot down here, which says gain a totem and also bury another card if you want, potentially more endgame points. And your worker stays right there if you're the first player to use this action each round, showing that you block it. Otherwise, your worker goes down here. And that a little hook at the end, I think, is really interesting. Not just those other 2 elements, but I like the idea that you can be the first player. There's an incentive to be the first player to use an action because you get that extra benefit. However, any other player who visits this action still gets these 2 benefits up here. You are not blocking them. You are only blocking this one part of the benefit. So I like that incentive to go after an action that no one else has used yet, but there's also still a lot of freedom in terms of the actions that you can choose each game. So there is interaction there in terms of the worker placement. Also up here, there's certain cards that you can play that give you an added bonus if they show that icon on it. So there's certain, like the hunter is better at hunting. So if you place the hunter over here, you'll gain an additional labor to use on the hunting action. So I like that the cards in the game that you're playing interact with these spaces as well. Yeah, it's a really, really nice worker placement system. And again, I think it is a big deal that you're only taking 12 total actions. And that means they had to build a lot into each of those worker placement action spots. That's why there are multiple benefits that you can gain, multiple ways to pay for those benefits as well. That's my favorite element of Endless Winter. Paleo-Americans, I just think of it as Endless Winter. That's my favorite mechanism in the game. I'd love to hear your thoughts if you've played the game, or if you can think of any other worker placement systems like this. I can think of definitely a few worker placement systems where if you were the first to go there, you get a benefit. Like in viticulture, oftentimes the first player will choose a bonus action space, so they get a bonus when they go there. But it's interesting to see this tiered action system with the kind of the infinite benefit, if you can pay for it, the strong one-time benefit, and then that one benefit if you were the first player to go there. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks.